Mykonos is a very popular island. Well, even more so now. I think now there are probably 2 or 3 cruises a day that go there, instead of 1 a week when I was there. Anyway, by the time June rolled around, there was a surge of tourists. Naturally, the islanders relied on the summer tourist trade, and especially that almighty dollar, so they were happy. But I couldn't quite adapt to the invasion of the party crowd, and missed the quieter, calmer spring months on Mykonos. When I told an Irish friend, Sheila, that I was ready to leave the island and go somewhere devoid of tourists, I expected her to say, good luck with that. But no, she mentioned Corfu. Really? I said. I thought that would be just as busy as here. She said there was a small hostel located in a village called Agianis, or St. John, about 10 miles from Corfu town. It's the best kept secret, she said. So off I went with my trusty backpack and US Army sleeping bag to the other side of Greece. First, I wanted to spend a few days in Athens, and it so happened that Sheila shared an apartment there with her friend Roisha, who was away in Ireland at the time. So Sheila gave me a spare key and the address and said, stay as long as you want. In those days, long-term travellers helped one another in many ways, and accommodation was always available for anyone who needed it. The apartment was in an area called Voula, close to the beach. It was lovely, and it was quiet. I just entered the apartment when there was a knock on the door. I opened it, and a lovely young Greek man stood there, with the biggest smile on his face. This was Spiros, who became a lifelong friend. I call him my soul brother, because our lives have paralleled one another over the years, both professionally and on a deeper spiritual level. Of all the relationships I've had in my life, the one with Spiros has been the most constant and reliable. I believe we have a bond that can never be broken. After he'd introduced himself, he said he wondered if Sheila was home. I explained that she was in Mykonos and I was staying in her place for a few days. Oh, then I must show you Athens, he declared with great enthusiasm. Tomorrow I will take you to the Acropolis at sunrise, which is the best time of day to see the Parthenon. I will come for you just before 6 a.m. And so he did. An architectural student, Spiros was also an artist with the heart of a poet. He hasn't changed. As the sun was rising above the Parthenon, he told me that this ancient temple was not only an architectural miracle, but a significant sculptural creation. In order for the Parthenon to be in perfect harmony with nature, the design lacks any straight lines. There are only curves, a bit like the human body. Also, even though each vertical axis of every column was different, they were nonetheless unified at the pinnacle of this marble building. Oh, I see another metaphor here. All the columns were different, and they were unified. I was interested to learn that the Parthenon was ordered to be built in the 5th century BC by Pericles, who was an aristocrat and a leader. And it was meant to be not only a monument to the cultural and political achievements of the people of Athens, but as a tribute to the great goddess Athena, who personified qualities the Athenians identified as their own, such as military prowess, fearlessness, love of beauty, reason, moderation, and knowledge. It's amazing, though, that ancient craftsmen and labourers with basic tools and by the might of their bodies built the Parthenon in only 8 years. But it's taken over 30 years to reconstruct with every modern technology known to man. And there are still so many mysteries of construction to be revealed. I love this quote by Pericles. What you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others. Love that. I spent several days seeing Athens through the eyes of my lovely new friend Spiros, and even attended a Greek wedding in the Plaka area where guests pinned money on the bride's gown. I thought this was a very practical use of the wedding dress and avoiding all those unwanted gifts as well. On the bus from Corfu town to the village of Agianis, I reflected on how much I'd learnt in my few days in Athens and how fortunate I was to have met Spiros. He was someone who would forever have an impact on my life. There's a saying that people come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. That's certainly very true in my experience, and I'm very grateful for all those people who've been there at every stage of my life, and especially those wonderfully supportive lifetime friends. The hostel in Agianis was quite small and actually resembled a Swiss chalet. It was very cute. Unfortunately, it was fully occupied. However, overflow was provided in the garden of the hostel for 20 drachmas instead of the 50 drachmas to sleep inside. I was still able to put my backpack into a locker and use the shower and bathroom facilities, so it wasn't too bad. I must say that I was very grateful for my US Army sleeping bag, although because it was camouflage green, I think I blended in too well with the ground and had bruises to prove it. Apart from being walked on, I really enjoyed being outside. At that time, there were usually around 15 of us camped out, guys and girls of all nationalities. It was a bit like a hippie commune. Lots of fun. Sometimes, even when I had an opportunity to sleep inside the hostel, I chose to stay outside because I enjoyed the company. We were like a little family of misfits. There was a restaurant across from the hostel, and I managed to get a job there working in the kitchen and waitressing from 7 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. and then in the evening from 5 to 7:30. All my food was free, and I was given 20 drachmas, which covered my accommodation in the hostel garden. First thing in the morning, Olga, the goat lady, would arrive with a big canister of goat's milk and her goat trailing behind. Costa, the breadman, was next with his lovely warm bread and rolls. That was the best part of the day. 2 Greek ladies did the cooking in the kitchen, and as soon as the milk arrived, Iliana would put some of it into a pan and warm it up. She'd then add a spoon of cocoa and honey, slather the fresh bread with honey as well, and we'd sit down and enjoy our breakfast. Delicious. One night, when I was sleeping in the garden, someone walked onto my face. That woke me up. Ouch! I yelled. I heard someone say, "Oh, I'm sorry," but it was dark and I didn't know who it was. The next morning, I was waiting on a young Canadian guy, and he looked up from his menu to place his order of eggs and said, "Oh my God, it was you!" I had no idea what he was talking about, but apparently the bottom of his boot had left an imprint on my face from the night before. Since I rarely looked in a mirror, of course I hadn't seen it, although my face had felt slightly sore. There were various beaches in the vicinity, although most were quite a walk away from the village. The one that seemed to attract most of the gang was an hour and a half along a dusty road and down a steep, rocky hill. It was called Myrtiotissa and was beautiful. It was absolutely worth the effort to get there. I saw that it was clothing optional, but wasn't about to strip off, especially when I knew there was a monastery above the cliff that overlooked the beach. It felt disrespectful. One day, as I was walking along the road to the beach, a young Greek man that I knew from the village offered me a ride on his motorbike. I was wearing a very colourful kaftan, bright purple and green stripes, which I'd made myself, and which was very comfortable over my bikini. I jumped on his bike and pulled the kaftan around me, but as he picked up speed, I felt myself being pulled backwards. My caftan was caught in the back wheel. I leant forwards and held onto him tighter. And as I did, I could feel the striped material ripping away from my body. Consequently, when I got off the bike, I only had half of my caftan left at the back. Fortunately, it just about covered my bikini bottom. Good job I had it on. Next time, another motorbike accident. Thanks for listening.